There are moments when rest doesn't feel inviting. It feels wrong. You sit down or pause or step away. And instead of relief, there's tension. A subtle discomfort. Sometimes that discomfort is easy to explain. We live in a culture that rewards momentum, productivity, responsiveness, visibility. Slowing down can feel like falling behind. Even if no one is measuring you, something inside still is. Rest can feel irresponsible, like you're stepping out of a race that everyone else is still running. And so you override the impulse to pause. You keep moving, not because you're incapable of rest, but because rest feels unsafe. But there's another kind of resistance that's quieter. And it doesn't come from exhaustion. It comes from energy. You're in a rhythm, a creative streak, a focused stretch of clarity. Ideas are moving. Work is flowing. You feel alive. And in that state, rest feels threatening. Not because you're afraid of falling behind, but because you're afraid of losing momentum. You don't want the current to stop. You don't want the clarity to fade. You don't want to step out of something that finally feels open. So you push a little longer. You stay up a little later. You ride the wave. And at first, it feels powerful. But eventually, something shifts. The energy becomes thinner, more brittle. What was once flow turns into force. And often, we don't know how to regulate that transition. No one teaches us how to hold high energy gently. We're taught how to generate it, how to chase it, how to capitalize on it, but not how to let it cycle. So, rest feels like an interruption, when in reality, it's part of the rhythm. Nature does not stay in full bloom year-round. Growth rises, peaks, softens, returns without panic. But we often treat momentum as something fragile. As if stepping away will cause it to disappear. As if pausing means losing access to the current. And underneath that fear is often a deeper question. Can I trust that energy will return? Can I trust that clarity isn't something I have to trap? Can I trust that momentum is not my only source of aliveness? When rest feels wrong, it is often because we equate movement with value or intensity with purpose or energy with identity. Slowing down then feels like diminishing. But rest is not the opposite of momentum. It is what makes momentum sustainable. It is what allows intensity to be integrated rather than burned through. Without rest, energy spikes. With rest, energy stabilizes. Without rest, creativity becomes depletion. With rest, creativity becomes cyclical. The discomfort you feel when you pause is not always laziness. It is sometimes the body recalibrating, the nervous system lowering its volume, the mind adjusting to quiet. And that recalibration can feel unfamiliar, even unsettling, especially if you've grown used to living in acceleration. Rest requires trust. Not just trust that the world will keep moving, but trust that you don't have to hold the current open. Trust that stepping back does not mean stepping out forever. If you're in a season of high energy, that is not something to suppress, but it may be something to steward. To notice when it begins to tip from flow into force. To notice when rest feels threatening instead of restorative. You don't need to fix that immediately. Just notice it. Notice when slowing down feels like failure. Notice when slowing down feels like loss. And ask quietly, what am I afraid will disappear if I pause? Sometimes the answer is productivity. Sometimes it's relevance. Sometimes it's inspiration. And sometimes it's simply the feeling of being alive. But aliveness is not built on constant acceleration. It's built on rhythm. And rhythm includes return. When rest feels wrong, it may not mean you are lazy. It may mean you are learning how to regulate your energy for the first time. And that learning takes patience. It takes experimentation. And it takes trust that stepping out of the current does not mean it will never come back. Let that possibility settle. You don't need to force rest, and you don't need to chase momentum. There is a way of holding both, and it begins by noticing the resistance without judging it. Let this settle.